We're solving problems, we're making city government work better, and we're dealing with big issues that confront us. So we've done everything from making investments, the largest infrastructure investment in city history. So we're investing over $400 million in our roads. When I started on council, less than 25% of our roads were in good or excellent condition. With the investments we're making, we're going to get that up to 50, 60% more by the end of the decade. So we're going to transform our roads. We're addressing storm sewers as well. We're investing in neighborhoods through Invest DSM and creating stronger corridors like what's going on Ingersoll and University. We're reconstructing Fleur Drive. We're investing in McRae Park that will be one of our signature parks when it's done, and it will be a great gateway to that whole Southwest 9th corridor. And we're tackling major problems like climate change and doing the things that we can at the local level, passing a 24/7, 100% clean energy standard, and starting the transition to electric vehicles, which is more sustainable and it's saving the city money. So we're doing all of those things and more. And there's so much more work to do, so much to build on, and all of those things will continue to strengthen our community, and I want to keep doing that.
Obviously, I live in Des Moines, Iowa. I understand the draw for the city, but how do you continue to incentivize people to live and work in Des Moines?
Yeah, well, you've got to create a great place for folks to live and work, and we've got natural advantages that we have to lean into that the suburbs don't have and can't have. You know, you're not going to have the density. You're not going to be able to recreate what we have on Ingersoll or the potential that we have. I just went on the Dogtown tour, and having Drake University as a partner and what's going on that university corridor, you can't recreate that elsewhere, but you have that in Des Moines. The same thing with the downtown core, the stadium district. You've got to lean into those things. We have density and amenities that you can't recreate, and those are the draws, and that's a building block. You obviously need strength in our education system. You know, I feel good about the Des Moines Public Schools. I'm a Des Moines Public School graduate myself. I got a great quality education. It served me well. It continues to serve me well to this day. I'm a public school parent. You know, my kids are going to Greenwood Elementary School, and even in the challenging year that they had with COVID, I was really impressed with the caliber of the teachers and everything that went into that. And in the Des Moines Public Schools, we serve a diverse population. It's socioeconomically diverse, it's racially diverse, it's diverse in native language and the language folks speak. And what the measure is, and where I think the Des Moines schools really do better than people give it credit for, is it takes the student where they are and grows every student. And I know that happens, and I have complete confidence in Des Moines Public Schools' ability to keep doing that, but we've got to work with them and partner with them, right? We need to think about how we co-program and how we can use our libraries to enhance our schools, how we can use our park programming to complement what goes on in our schools, how we can make our community more accessible so more students can walk to school safely. And we're working on all those things.
Crime and violence is an issue that has faced Des Moines for some time. The Des Moines Police Department says our city has a gang problem. Since November of 2015, there have been 5 shootings in downtown Des Moines. 3 of them have happened in the last 3 months. What do you think is the solution that City Council can help to find a solve to the gun violence issue in our city?
Yeah, so we need to treat gun violence like the public health epidemic it is. That's a really key piece. And one of the things that I've been advocating that we do, and there's actually a RFP out right now, is we need to bring a program like Cure Violence to Des Moines. It treats gun violence like a public health epidemic, and it tries to stop it at its root. So it trains violence interrupters and works with community partners So you place those violence interrupters in places where they will be trusted, where they'll be able to develop relationships, and tries to stop the violence before it starts. When you know there are going to be triggers or other things that are likely to lead to those relational conflicts, Cure Violence can help with that. And so we've seen that program work in other communities. We need to do that here in Des Moines. We need to do things like continue to invest in our neighborhood-based service delivery program, where we have officers out in parts of our community and developing relationships with the neighbors, with the businesses. That community-based policing approach is another piece to this puzzle. So we need to continue investing in solutions like that, and that's how we make progress on that.
This has been a year of social reckoning. We've had protests and a large number of people out of this Des Moines community coming and saying, police aren't doing our community a service. They are targeting us. The City Council passed a ban on racial profiling. There was a request and perhaps a demand for a community, a civilian oversight committee. That was not a part of the plan that passed out of City Council. Is that something you see that the city can work toward or will work toward?
Yeah, so first off, I mean, we have a lot of great public servants in our police department, in our fire department. You know, they're dedicated to our community. They have difficult jobs. They don't get to duck any problem, right? Anything that we as a society don't deal with, the bottom line, it stops when we get that first responder call, that public safety call. We have to respond. Our police, our fire have to respond. And I have every bit of confidence that they will. And they're doing a good job, they're working hard, and they're serving our community well. That doesn't mean that we can't do better and that we shouldn't challenge ourselves to do better and constantly be working to do better. And our racial profiling ban is a piece of that. Investing in quality, independent third parties to do de-escalation training is a piece of that. Looking at our policies and practices, you know, as part of our racial profiling ordinance, we put our police policies and procedures online for the first time. And in looking at those policies and procedures, we have room to align with national best practices. And we need to continue having that conversation about how we align with national best practices, including civilian review board, or what we can do within the limits of Iowa law. Cedar Rapids and Iowa City both have models for what we can look at that could be within the limits of Iowa law, and we should do that.
You know, some of those issues we just discussed are all issues that have been brought up in this last year of social reckoning of these protests. But those protests have then now come to the City Council meetings. The City Council order has changed. The way public comment is received, the number of people who are allowed to comment has decreased. The number of minutes that comment is allowed has decreased. Yet still, these City Council meetings are being disrupted. They feel unheard, but you feel like you can't get business done. What has that been like?
Well, it's been challenging. And first off, I'll say I think that we can and should listen longer. You know, I proposed at least an hour for the open-ended public comment. That may not be the right balance, but we could certainly listen longer, and we should continue working towards that. But that's only a piece of it, right? There are lots of ways that you can connect and interact. You can connect with us via email or phone. I've been willing to meet with folks in forums and outside of council meetings. We do have to get our business done during council meetings, but we also have to listen to folks and engage with folks, and I'm committed to doing that. But there's sometimes, and one of the tricks in this job, people think if you're not doing exactly what they want, you're not listening. And I represent 55,000 people, and there's a diversity of opinion and diversity in terms of the solutions and how they want me spending time and what they want me working on. And I'm going to try my best to listen to all of them and then take that input and make the best decisions I can. And that means sometimes people aren't going to be happy with the decisions I've made. But I think, and the goal is that I'm going to be representing those 55,000 in whole as best I can.
I'd like to move on to talk about food insecurity. It was an issue well before the pandemic. It was only heightened during the pandemic. But continuing to, I mean, obviously food banks are so important, but how do you solve the food insecurity issue so that people can feel like they can provide food for their families, they can feed their families real food, they can have access to a grocery store where they can buy real food, and they can afford to do it?
Right, and that's a big issue, and there are lots of pieces to that. You know, during the pandemic, we used dollars that the city had available to address food insecurity, and we partnered with local restaurants to provide meals, and we provided over 55,000 meals that way to folks in our community who needed it. We need to keep working with partners, and that's partners like the Food Bank and DMARC, Central Iowa Shelter and Service. We need to work with those partners. We also need to think about solutions and how do we get grocery stores in more parts of our community? How do we facilitate, and I'd say there's probably a difference between urban gardens where we help people grow some of their own food in a garden and urban farms where you have food in larger lots where someone's maybe creating a small business around those lots. But we need to look at all of those type of solutions and work with partners and neighbors and those who want to be part of the solution to expand those solutions. And that's a piece of what at least the first step of the Food Security Task Force was designed to do, was look at those solutions. What can we do from an ordinance perspective and a city perspective to facilitate those things? And after you bite off sort of those first pieces, there's going to be more to that conversation.
Affordable housing. How do you balance the idea of having access to affordable housing, making sure that those affordable housing opportunities are in places where people work and that the jobs are there and people can afford to live in even those, you know,
yeah.
How?
Well, so in some respects, it's an all of the above strategy that we need with affordable housing. We know that we are short so many affordable units in our community, in the metro, that we need to be looking at everything possible. So for example, when the city provides incentives on multifamily projects, since I've been on council, we've required a percentage of those to be affordable. And we've had different affordable ranges, some 80% area median income. It's really important to get lower than that 80%. That integrates affordable pieces into every project, so it's integrated everywhere. But we have to go beyond that. And some of that is what we did with Central Iowa Shelter Service, where we added 24 transitional units onto that facility. That's a piece of that because you're getting that really low income, 30% of area median income and lower for those transitional units. We're working with Anawim on a project on the Merle Hay corridor where they're going to convert a hotel and there's going to be supportive services on site, case managers on site. That's a piece of this. We just applied for 6 workforce housing tax credits with the state, 6 of those projects. We need to keep doing all of these strategies and trying all of these strategies. And a big piece, we need to focus on our transit corridors because the cost of transportation, if you can give people access to public transit at the same time, that opens up a whole new world for them. Because if you plan transit right, you have jobs and housing connected there, but you also have, back to that question, the grocery store, like food security, childcare, healthcare services. Transit makes all of those things accessible and can make life that much better. So planning and all of the above strategy are really critical here.
Final question or topic I'd like to discuss before I allow you to have a couple closing words. Drinking water is an issue. It's a critical issue for our city. If we don't have water,
Absolutely.
we're in bad shape.
Right. Water is one of the fundamentals, and we need people, particularly in Des Moines, advocating for clean water because our drinking water is threatened. We get our water from two surface water sources, the Des Moines River and the Raccoon River. And this summer, we've seen sort of the convergence of the water quality crisis and the climate crisis in one, because the Des Moines River has had microcystin. It's dammed up at Saylorville, which can have outbreaks of blue-green algae, and so you get the toxins in the water, and you can't use that water from a drinking water perspective. And then the drought has had water flows on the Raccoon incredibly low, and those two can converge and really threaten our drinking water. And so if we're not addressing those problems, the water quality problems upstream and the climate crisis, we're going to continue to have threatened water, and we're not going to be able to provide for our residents like we should.
In closing, what do you want the city of Des Moines, the people of Ward 3, to really have their takeaway from this conversation?
Well, the takeaway, I mean, there's a lot that's great about our community and a lot that we are doing well and doing right. We're creating opportunities, we're creating unique spots, everything from our downtown to the stadium district that's going to be created, the avenues, University and Grand, and then, or Ingersoll and Grand rather, and then what we're replicating on University, and what we're doing on Southwest 9th with McCrae Park and looking down there. We are investing in all parts of our community. We're doing the basics, like investing in infrastructure and roads and bringing our quality back up there. And we're tackling big problems. We're addressing climate change. We're looking to address water quality, doing the things that will create quality of life and a great place to live, work, and raise a family for generations to come. It's why I love living here with my family, why we love this community, and we're going to create that not just for everyone else, but for future generations too.